Okay, we're going to go over Unit 1, Lesson 2, Section 2, Exercise 16 and 17. Exercise 16 tells us to translate. So we're going to look at our word periculum servorum. So periculum comes from the word periculum, periculi. So e ending tells us that this is a second declension neuter. And we have the ending which in the neuter can be either nominative singular or accusative singular. And that's because all neuter words, the nominative and the accusative, agree. So now we look at servorum. Servorum comes from servus servi, so the us-e ending tells us that this is a second declension masculine. Second declension masculine. And we look at our ending orum. Be careful when there's an orum. Sometimes if we're going fast, we'll only notice the That would make this accusative and it would make no sense. So don't forget the or. So we have orum as our ending, which can only be genitive plural. So now we're going to look, is this our subject or our direct object? Well, since we have no verbs to make this a direct object, we're going to cross that out as an option, and this is our subject, and this is our possessive word. So we have nominative singular, our periculum, which is the danger. So we're going to write the danger. And then genitive tells us it's of. So of what? Servorum would be the servant or slave. Oh, plural though, so servants or slaves. So I'm going to say the slaves. So the danger of the slaves. You could also say the danger of the servants. Either one is correct. Now moving on to number 7. Number 7 tells us to first translate and then to underline the direct object. So let's start translating. We have servi Christi imperium Christi laudant. So with this one, we're going to start with the first word of servi. And we know that servi comes from, servi comes from servus servi, and the us-e ending tells us that it is second declension masculine. We're going to look for the I in second declension masculine, and that shows up two places, the genitive singular and the nominative plural. Moving to Christ, Christus, Christi. So the us-e tells us that it's second declension masculine, and we're looking at our I ending, and it should be genitive singular or nominative plural, but if we think about it, Christ is not going to be translated into the plural because there's only one of it. So we can go ahead and knock that out as one of our options. It can only be genitive singular. Now we have imperium. Imperium, imperii. The e tells us that it is part of the second declension neuter. And we're going to look at this ending And in the second declension neuter, as we saw up here, it can either be nominative singular or accusative singular. Now we have Christi, which comes from Christus Christi, us-e, just like we found out up there, is from the second declension masculine. And we also saw that it cannot be the nominative plural with this e ending, so we're going to write just genitive singular. Alright, lastly we have laudant, and laudant is to praise. And we're going to look at the ending, and it has nt, which makes this plural. We know our verb has to agree with our subject in number. So plural, up here we have the option of servi and Christi. We know Christi is possessive, and it would make no sense if we didn't have a subject for it to possess. So we know that this is our subject. We have an option of that being our subject. The only other subject in the sentence it could be is imperium, which is singular, not plural. So that helps us also determine that servi is our subject. All right, so that brings this imperium has two options now. We know it's not our subject because it was not plural like our verb was, and we also know that we have a subject doing something to something. So accusative makes this our direct object. All right, so now let's go ahead and write this out. The servant, servi, servants, pardon me, servants, because it's plural. So the servants, genitive makes this an of. So the servants of Christ. The servants of Christ do what? They praise. And praise who or what? Here's our direct object. Imperium. And imperium can be command, power, or empire. For the sake of this sentence, I'm going to choose the word power. So the servants of Christ praise. Oh, I'm going to write the power. That would make more sense. The power of, here's our genitive of, and then of Christ. And it asks us to underline our direct object. Well, what's being praised? The power is being praised. We have our accusative right here that tells us that imperium is the direct object. So you could have written this a few ways. You could have said the servants of Christ, the slaves of Christ, or you could have said Christ's servants, or Christ's slaves, praise. Then you have the power of Christ, the empire of Christ, the command of Christ, or you could have said praise, Christ's power, Christ's empire, or Christ's command. Any of those are correct.